listening to the Marketing Personalities Podcast, a podcast for growth-minded entrepreneurs that serves up valuable insight and interviews about aligning your marketing strategy with your personality type. Because here's the deal. You shouldn't have to feel fake and salesy in order to grow your business. And you no longer have to. Your marketing strategy can feel good to implement and it can work. You can attract the right clients and customers to your business and grow your profits, all while staying true to who you naturally are. So in the name of honest business growth, bring your unique talents, perspectives, and personality to the table. And join us on this week's podcast episode to discover marketing that feels good for you. Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Personalities Podcast. I'm Brit Kolo, and I'm here today with Jacq Fisch, copywriter, strategist, and coach. Jacq, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, Brit. I'm so energized. I'm buzzing with energy to be here today.
Yes, as am I. At the time of this recording, Jacq and I have just returned from, what would you say, probably by far the best event you've ever attended.
Yes. As you said that, I could feel like goosebumps and energy percolating in my body. Yes. Hands down, best event ever been to.
Yeah. So Jacq and I have been in a mastermind together curated by Kick-Ass Masterminds since March of 2018. So we're coming up on a year together in the same small group mastermind. And so Jacq and I have been around each other for a while. And if you had listened to the podcast before it became Marketing Personalities, you've heard from Jacq. She's been on the podcast 2 other times. So Jacq and I know each other really well. And then we just got to spend 4 or 5 days together in San Diego at Kick-Ass Mastermind Live. And it was literally the most electric, best event I've ever been to. Like Jacq just said, best one she's ever been to. It's just awesome. And at the time of this recording, we've just returned. We're just kind of getting back into the swing of things since that event. So we are just balls of energy. So buckle up. I mean, this episode could be life-changing. I'm just going to tee that up there. So I don't know, who knows? But Jacq and I are here today to discuss writing and how different personality types approach writing. It's something that we all have to do so much in our businesses, between emails and sales pages and social media posts and messages and blog posts and scripts for videos. Like, it's just everywhere, right? We have to do so much writing. And that's what Jacq does. She's a copywriter, she's a writing strategist and a coach. And we're going to get into how she helps us with our business and personal writing in just a sec. But before we dig into that, I want you to get to know Jacq a bit better. So Jacq, I love you. Who the heck are you in this world?
Aww, thank you. I love you too, Brit. So thank you for that fantastic introduction. I'm a writer. I work with clients in 2 main ways. I either ghostwrite for other business owners, or I help other business owners make their writing better. So some of the things we write together are things like website copy and everything involved with that, about pages, sales pages, landing pages, email sequences, blog posts, podcast intros, emails that sell, ebooks, even a job description here or there. So once I've been working together with clients, we can get into writing lots of things.
Awesome. Okay. So tell us, I mean, we've kind of gone into your backstory hardcore in other episodes. So you can always go back and listen to the detailed version of how Jacq came to get here. But give us kind of the quick rundown of what got you here as a copywriter, strategist, and coach. What does that look like?
Sure. So I am coming up on my 2-year anniversary of being in business for myself full time. I grew my business on the side for a good 1.5 years or so while I was in corporate America. And I spent 13 years total in the corporate world, management consulting, corporate communications, crisis communications, like very big corporate jargony, which I later recognized, types of writing, which I did there. And after having my first kid, who's now 10, I went back to work after maternity leave and was like, something is just off. This is not right. Why am I here? What should I be doing? So I read every self-help book on the shelves, and I clued into the idea that, oh, I could start my own business and it could be something that I really love. That sounds fun. So I initially started as a vegan food blogger. I'm no longer vegan anymore, but I started, that was a business. I taught local cooking classes. I was featured on some big sites and in some cookbooks. And when I stopped being vegan and caring so much about food, I realized that it was the writing part was what I really enjoyed. And that was when I was like, oh, and I'm really good at this. Mm-hmm. So in my corporate days, I was often the go-to person for writing anything, whether it was a tricky email or proposals worth like millions of dollars back then for getting my management consulting company clients, resumes, LinkedIn profiles. Like they would always just come to me and ask for my opinion. I was like, oh, it was just that natural thing that I was good at that I didn't fully recognize could be a business. And when I clued into that, that was when I grew it on the side until I couldn't handle doing both anymore. And then I left my day job in March of 2017.
Wow. I mean, you have been writing for forever, and it just feels like
yes,
your growth in the past 2 years, because I've had a really great front row seat to it, has just been just astronomical. Like, who knew that you could grow so much as a person and in business in just 2 years? Do you feel that way?
Right. When I look back, and even when I tell some people who I just start interacting with, they're like, you've only been doing this full time for 2 years. They're blown away. They see my online presence. And this is also partially because I did so much on the side and I show up so consistently. And they think that I've been online doing this for a really long time. So I've been doing it just in a slightly different capacity. But you're absolutely right. It's blown my mind how quickly it's taken off and how quickly I replaced my corporate income.
Oh, yeah. And that wasn't a small income. So yeah, that's nothing to shake a finger at. Super interesting and fun to watch. And I think you just nailed something. It kind of clicked in for me. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. I think the reason that you have seen such great growth, over time, I mean, just like you said, you've been showing up in writing for over a decade, and you've been showing up consistently in your business for 2 years. And I think that consistency is what sets apart the person who is 2 years in and still just trying to figure it out and not really gaining traction, and the person like you who's been in this for 2 years and it just feels, and you just kind of assume that you've been doing this for years and years and years and years. I think it's that consistency piece that you do so beautifully.
Thank you. Yes, I am. You can't see me, but I'm nodding along. Yes, yes, yes. Consistency. Just showing up every single week on my blog. It shows so much that you are committed to what you're doing, committed to what you're building, committed to serving your audience. And when new people discover that if they just come into my world, that they have years of blog posts to go back on, and they see that I show up every single week, even if I think I have nothing to write about, or if I don't want to, or if I'm quote unquote too busy to show up. Yeah, consistency is key.
Yeah, it really is. If you want actual growth and a really good reputation, I mean, if those things aren't for you, then but no, seriously, consistency is so key to those things. So thanks for the rundown there. Now I want to camp out here and really make sure that the listeners understand what you do for your clients and customers. So you can write for people, but you've also allowed this incredible thing to be birthed in 2018, which again, I got to watch firsthand, and it was so rad to watch you just take massive action and create this thing in the world called MOFO Writers. Tell us about MOFO Writers and what it is, because this is going to come back to your personality. I swear we're going to get there, but we have to understand what this thing actually is. So once we do get to talk about personality, it's all going to make sense. So what is it?
Yes. So MOFO Writers is their online writing marathons. We have a small group. I keep the groups to no more than 12 to 15. We spend 3 hours focused on whatever people want to write. So business owners show up with some blog posts they want to get done, with some outlines, with finalizing website copy. Some people are working on books or other personal projects. We do it live on a Zoom call. They have a special Google document just for the MOFO sessions. And when they're ready for some feedback, they raise their hand. We pull up their work, what they're working on. We dive into specific questions that often go so far, sometimes beyond just writing. Like, is this a great word choice for this? Or help me give this offer a great name. I need to give this product a name or a tagline or a subtitle or something like that. And then we workshop together. So we go round and round. The writers get so much feedback, and they get to listen in on all the feedback that I'm giving the other business owners in that group. So the other business owners are working on things that perhaps is just one step ahead of another business owner. So they are getting all these great insights. And that combined with, so there's the accountability. You have to show up for 3 hours. You are there live on a video call, and you have to do your work. So you're not going to show up for 3 hours and go goof off on Facebook or Instagram. You're going to come and get your stuff done. And there's a little bit of, I call it magic for lack of a better word, or maybe that is the word, that when people are done with that 3 hours, I get so much great feedback after that. People are buzzing afterwards. Or for instance, some business owners will continue writing beyond the 3 hours. One coach spent 8 hours total that day, just writing. So she got so much momentum and everyone gets so much stuff done. So yeah, it's a fun place.
It is a fun place. Listeners, you have to know, I am a part of MOFO Writers. I am in this membership that Jacq has created. And it's all of those things that she just explained and somehow more. Like, it's, once you are a MOFO writer, you can get into these 3-hour writing marathons. And you host them like once or twice a month, depending, right? And you get in there at the scheduled time. There are other people on the call, and you show up and you write whatever you need to write or edit whatever you need to edit. And then at any given time, if you need feedback, the expert, the Jacq, is right there ready to help you through something. If you get stuck on something or you just need another set of eyes, I mean, that is so often the case for me. It's like I'm so deep in the work that sometimes I'm missing really easy things to spot. And because Jacq is a whole other person and she's not deep into the work, she can bring a brand new perspective and catch things that I never would have caught. I know I've gotten on the MOFO writing sessions and I've worked on blog posts before. I think the one time I wrote 4 blog posts in 3 hours, which is just stupid crazy. Like, I don't know how that happened other than you created the space and I was able to borrow the energy and the momentum that was brought by other people on the call. And I just showed up and did it. And I think every single time I get on a call, I'm always like, Jacq, I would have quit like 2 hours ago. I'm also the type of person where I originally thought like, well, I mean, I could put 3 hours in my calendar and say that that was going to be my writing time and I would show up for it. But the truth of the matter is that is just not reality. Like, I could put that in my calendar and I'd show up probably for an hour, maybe 90 minutes. There's no way, even if I had it in my calendar, that I would show up for the full 3 hours. I just wouldn't. I would get distracted. I would find something else to do. I would, whatever. But when Jacq has created this space and you're invested and you're there, you don't find other things to do. You show up and you do it, and consistently. Also, I wrote the podcast intro and outro during a MOFO session. And it was something that I had been procrastinating on because I knew that the words had to be good, right? Like, those things need to be crisp and clean and clear. And pack a really good punch in just a few short sentences. And so I had been procrastinating. I got on a MOFO writer session. I just, as Jacq always coaches us through, just let it out. Just let it out. You can go back and fix it later. Just let it out. I did that. And then it became my turn to ask for feedback. And Jacq and I just riffed back and forth, finding the right words, making it work. And that's the intro and outro that you hear now on this podcast, is the one that I worked on in a MOFO writing session. I know for sure I wouldn't have gotten it so crisp and so clean so fast had I just tried to do that on my own, period. So, all right, MOFO Writers is so rad, so good. Now you know what it is, listener. Now let's talk about Jacq and her personality type. And eventually we're going to get to discussing how different personality types approach writing, because we don't do it all the same. And so first of all, Jacq, what is your personality type?
I am an INFJ.
Yes, you are. Which is...
I've taken the test like 4 times to be sure.
Yeah. Tried and true INFJ. And the INFJ, we've spoken about it a couple times in the last few weeks. And, INFJs are pretty rare actually, but I find a lot of them in the space that I'm at, and in this creative entrepreneurial space tends to have quite a few INFJs. And I think I know, why. If you want to go back and kind of get a better understanding of who an INFJ is, just naturally, if you aren't an INFJ, I would definitely go back and listen to the episode, a review on diplomats with Rachel East. And then I also did a quick review of all the diplomat personality types, including the INFJ, last week. So you can just go back one episode and listen to that if you need a refresher. But the INFJ, also known as the advocate, they are deep. They are deep people, super intuitive. They are mission driven. They will not do something unless they understand why they're doing it. And it's a mission that they can get behind. And when it comes to their best marketing strategy, INFJs are best at creating and delivering long form content. It might be written content. It might be spoken word. It doesn't really matter about the format, but the purpose is long form and an opportunity to go wide and deep with their audience to make sure that their audience really is a good potential candidate for what they're selling. The worst thing for an INFJ to do is to not indoctrinate their audience and just go straight to the sale. That feels super fake, super salesy. It just does not feel good for an INFJ. They know that there are things that they need to indoctrinate their potential customer through and on before they offer something to them. So that's a quick overview. Go back to the other episodes if you want to know more about this type. If that is you, or maybe you're working with a good number of INFJs, those episodes can give you some insight there. But Jacq, you're a writer and you're an INFJ, and you kind of got the long form content thing down, consistently showing up with blog posts for years and years and years. So tell me about you and how that resonates for you. Does that feel right when you think about how long form content allows you to indoctrinate your people before you ever sell them something? Like, what happens there for you?
Oh, yes. All the yeses. Going deep, like small talk, can't do it. It physically hurts. So I think that's where showing up in my blog in long form content just feels good. I process my thoughts and experiences through writing, and I get to share those experiences with my readers, which just is so cool.
So ideal. Yeah. That's the INFJ.
Yeah.
So we will, like I said, I keep teasing it, but there's just more I need to talk about before we get there. We will talk about the other personality types and how they approach writing. But I am really curious to hear you explain how you utilize your specific, unique lean into the INFJ personality type in how you write and coach your people. This is just endlessly fascinating to me, how you just so naturally weave in your intuitive feeling capabilities into how you write. So can you riff on that? Can you explain or just like take us into the world of how you write for yourself and for your clients and help other people write specifically from that intuitive feeler angle?
Yeah, you hit on a keyword there, intuitive. So in my personal writing, and this is good advice for anyone just feels stuck, like can't get the words out, is to just think less about what I'm writing. So I often come to the page if it's for a blog post and just spill it all out. Doesn't matter how clean it is, how nice it looks. You can go back and edit. And that when you drop that filter and just let everything out, then you can go back and take out pieces that don't feel right or aren't appropriate. But just getting it on the page is the key. And then in working with others and coaching them. So a big part of that going deep is getting to know my clients and anyone who's in there. So it'd be very difficult for me to just look at a sales page of someone I have no idea who they are, what their business is, what their goals are, why they even want to do this thing. I want to know why they're doing what they're doing, why they're making this thing, writing this book, selling this offer. I need to understand that, which we get into when they would show me like a piece of copy for feedback. And then part of it is just like shushing my thoughts, like silencing any thoughts that pop up. And when it comes to looking at their writing, following my hunches. So if I get a hunch that like a sentence or word isn't quite right, I'll want to know, is that something your clients say, or is this your expert speak? So my jargon spidey sense is pretty strong. And I also like to understand where they're coming from. So if they write something in a certain way, I will ask, tell me more about why you're writing it this way. Who's your audience? What are you getting at? And then the intuition piece is a little tricky to articulate. Mm-hmm. But I could say, sometimes I just know that something may or may not work. And we experiment. I might get a wild idea and throw it at someone and be like, how would it feel if you were to do this? Or when some people are slogging through blogging, sometimes I ask them, how would it feel to just do a voice recording instead of writing? And they're like, oh, never thought about that. So me going in there, not necessarily knowing their type and what would feel best for them, is asking questions and finding out what feels right to them and then starting from there. So it's a blend of following my hunches, seeing what they present, and getting to know them. So because we're such a small community in the MOFO group, for example, we're such a small community that I have the time to get to know them and know their businesses, what their goals are. And, we all follow each other on Instagram, so I can see what their family did last night, and I can see that they're on their fourth coffee of the day. We just have that connection that feels so natural.
Yeah. And it goes beyond writing just for the sake of writing. And it goes beyond writing because you feel like you have to, and way, way, way beyond writing for search engine optimization, which I know for you is kind of like a dirty word. And it's not that that's not valuable. It's just not where your writing and where your client's writing comes from. Like, it's the people that you naturally attract. And let's remember what podcast we're listening to, the Marketing Personalities podcast. When you show up in a way that feels good to you, your best tribe, the people that are best positioned to work with you and just completely jive with you and who you naturally are going to just like kind of naturally be attracted to that. So you're showing up in a feel good way and you're feeling awesome about the people that you're working with. And since Jacq has done this consistently over time, showed up with her long form content and utilized this natural skill of having that deeper knowing and trusting that deeper knowing, that intuition in her writing, and not being distracted by the search engine optimization techniques and the technical things, and looking at writing from a really super technical place. She's been able to build a really strong and thriving business and attract others that resonates with. So you're naturally attracting these people who also feel intuitive and utilize their deeper knowing to live in the world, not just write, but like live in the world. And I think that's a beautiful example of how leveraging your own natural skill, your own natural personality type can create a growing and thriving business, community, and life, if we want to take it that big, because it's true. So I dig that. Obviously, I'm an ENFJ, so I'm an intuitive feeler as well. And so that is so much more where I want to come from in my writing. And I want to work with a copywriter and a word strategist that also comes from that place. It would not feel good for me to work with someone who only cared about writing things for SEO or writing things from a technical standpoint. That wouldn't jive.
Yeah, it would probably fall flat for you. It would feel like missing dimensions.
Totally.
Or depth.
Exactly. So let's talk about how other personalities might approach this so we can better understand how our different personality types can inform us on how we can approach writing. Because again, just like marketing, when we see other people marketing their businesses in a certain way, we might think, oh, in order to be successful, I need to do it the way they do it. And that's not true. You need to do it the way that you do it and that feels good to you. And writing is so much the same. If we can understand how we naturally can approach writing in a feel good, easy way and forget about how others approach it, we might actually show up. We might actually write something. Exactly. And we might actually do it in a way that feels totally natural. And we might get some responses back like, holy smokes, like, how do you know that? How do you know that I was feeling that way? So we kind of hit the diplomats, the intuitive feelers. They tend to already write quite a bit and use their intuitive feeling skills to go kind of deep and almost, I don't want to say theoretical, but not so structured and technical. They go deep into the feeling part. And we also see, I don't know. I mean, I guess the diplomats are kind of easy and those just make sense. And then we have analysts who go a more technical route. They kind of blend the intuitive and the thinking aspects. We've got sentinels who are really great at templates and using templates maybe in their writing. And then we have explorers who just need to get stuff down on paper and tell us stories. So how do you manage all of these different types of writers? How do you even start? Like, where do we even begin here?
Often it's first understanding what their business is. I want to know a little bit about them, what feels easy to them. And then I also want to know where their writing struggles are. So in finding what their struggles are, that's when I can hear what might not be working. They might be pushing or forcing themselves to do something that isn't a great fit for them. Like someone trying to write for SEO who's intuitive and it doesn't feel right. It just feels salesy and icky.
Yes. Yeah.
So often the clues are where they talk about where they're struggling. And that's when I can start to dig in and figure out what's really going on under that. And they're struggling often because they might need a shift in perspective. They might need some writing tips or just some tricks to make it feel easier for them. That's usually where the clues are.
Yeah. It feels like you don't necessarily have to know what's going to feel good, but as long as you can come to Jacq and explain what doesn't feel good, you can probably direct them in a place where they can at least experiment with some things that are maybe different and are going to feel better. Now, I have a question about batching. We hear a lot about batching, and I'm curious, do you find more people trying to batch their blog posts or show up on a weekly basis and just create the next post for the next week? And what do you do? Like, just take us into that whole batching conversation because it always comes up when we talk writing.
Totally. So batching can be really powerful at getting things done if it works for you. So for myself, I'm a huge advocate of batching. Focus time, getting stuff done. Like I will batch certain tasks in my business and I found through trying it that batch blogging did not work for me. I like to there's that intuition thing. I like to follow my gut and write what feels like it wants to come out in my writing that week. But what I do have personally is a long list of topics that if I don't get a stroke of inspiration, I will go to that list of topics and I'll choose one that jumps out at me. And that feels good for me. So some people don't like feeling confined by knowing that you have to write about such and such topic next week. Mm-hmm. That feels too constrictive. So for those people, I suggest having a list of ideas and choosing one that works. And also when it comes to batching, if having a content plan for your entire year feels good, then I would suggest to look at what you might be promoting throughout the year. What is your client going through throughout the year? When will they need to hear certain things from you? And you can start there with loose themes and then go back in and fill in the topics or whatever feels good. So it really depends on where people are coming from, if batching will work for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think something that I've picked up on just from working with different clients and watching how they batch different things, whether it's writing or podcast recording or whatever, I've seen how if your personality type ends with a J, so we both are INFJ, ENFJ, we end with a J, those Js tend to be a bit more regimented. They find balance a little bit more easily than Ps. And so they might be able to keep with a regular routine of writing for their regular scheduled content. I see that that's a little bit more possible for them. And on the flip side, Ps, I think if your personality type ends with a P and you create a plan to simply like show up every week at the same time and write a blog post, I think you're setting yourself up for failure because you need way more freedom than that. Any kind of like that scheduled routine is going to feel not good out of the gate. And so then that writing is not going to feel good. So if you're a P, from my perspective, I would definitely recommend batching in whatever way you possibly can. And I mean, I'm an ENFJ, Jacq's an INFJ, and we're both saying, and if I haven't said it already, like, yes, I batch everything. And as an entrepreneur, I mean, regardless of our type, we crave freedom and flexibility. And so I think batching is just really smart. And again, I come back to MOFO Writers. MOFO Writers is why batching is possible for me at this stage in the game, because without it, I could say that I'm going to batch all day on Friday, and I'm not going to do that unless MOFO Writers is actually there and kind of holding my butt to the seat and being like, all right, show up and do it. So huge fan of batching, whether you're a J or a P. That's just very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I also want to ask you about your stance on writer's block. And I ask about this because it's a common phrase. I think our society accepts it and that it exists. And I also have gotten on to MOFO Writer sessions and been like, I have no idea what I need to write. Like, I don't know what to write. It feels like I have a lot to write, but I don't even know where to start. And I just feel I might term it writer's block. And I kind of already said it before, like there are so many things we need to write in business. I mean, it's never ending. So sometimes it's really hard to know if we're even writing the right thing at the right time, sort of thing. So what's your stance on writer's block and how can we deal with that?
Ooh, this is a juicy topic. Writer's block is total crap and it's just an excuse.
Yeah.
I said it.
You said it.
Yeah, I believe there's no such thing as writer's block. Some people might say that because they don't know what to write. So some ideas to help you eliminate the term writer's block from your vocabulary. 3 ideas. 1, if you're trying to write a blog post and it's not coming, go write something else. Write anything. Write something that will be easy. Write an email, a reply to someone, write a social media post. Just write something and then come back to it. 2, just write whatever comes to your mind. So this is that crappy first draft. Write that. It does not need to be good. It just needs to get out of your head, get all your ideas onto the page. You will go back and edit later.
Yes.
And third, try journaling. You could call this a couple different things. Journaling, free writing, stream of consciousness writing, morning pages, regardless of what time you do them. At the beginning of every MOFO Writer session, we do a very quick 5-minute exercise to just get all the junk out of our brain. And when I say junk, it is scribbling on a page, pen to paper. Some people prefer to do it on a computer. I usually recommend pen to paper though. And it's just getting all the thoughts and cloudiness out of your head. Even if all you're writing is saying, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. This sucks. I don't want to do this. It doesn't matter. It's just the act of writing. And once you get that out of your head, you can jump in with momentum. So it's just keeping writing going, no matter where you do it.
Yeah, I love that part. It is such a valuable place to start. And sometimes I've gotten onto MOFO writing sessions, and I know that you're going to have us do that 5 minutes of just stream of consciousness writing. And sometimes I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do that. I already know what I want to write. I just want to start writing. But every time I kind of like, okay, I slow down my mind and I remind, okay, like Jacq is having me do this. I better do it. There's a reason for this. Every time I do that, something unexpected comes out of me, good or bad, but it's something that unlocks the rest of the session to be what it really, truly needed to be. And if I would have just jumped in with my mind on fire and really, really loud, I wouldn't have released the thing that really needed to be released within that stream of consciousness. And that could have clouded the rest of the experience. So I'm really thankful that you start us there always. And I think that's a super great tip. No matter where the listener is at right now, you need to write something today, period. I know you do, whether it's an email or an Instagram post or whatever. And that's a really helpful takeaway. If you do nothing else, stream of consciousness writing and literally allowing it to be ridiculous and whatever needs to come out of your brain, because the mind is full of ridiculousness. Like that's all it has for us basically. So allow it to be ridiculous, get it out and then move on. And I also recognize, and I want your take on this, Jacq, when I sense resistance toward writing something, I'm now realizing that resistance, that procrastination is fear. What is at the root of that is fear. And I think, for me at least, it's fear that what I end up writing isn't going to be good enough. I know that is exactly why I procrastinated on writing the intro and outro for this podcast a few weeks ago. I was scared that I would not be able to find the right words. And I had resistance and I procrastinated it for like 3 weeks straight. It was always on my Asana and it never got done. So that resistance can be a really, really important cue and clue into, hey, it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's not that you're a bad writer. It's not that you're not good enough to write this thing. You're just scared of it not being good. How do we move through that? How do we get over that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That resistance comes up all the time. Even the resistance to doing that free writing, like you mentioned, sometimes you come to the session, you're like, no, I'm just going to skip this. I'm just going to get to work now. Thanks. Even I resist that. So I do free writing while everyone in the session is doing it too, because I also need to get the gunk out of my head. So I could be resisting who's in the group today. What am I going to be able to help them? Am I going to be able to give them the right words to keep them moving? Am I going to show up as a great coach? So I get that stuff out of my head. So the best advice I can give on resistance is to meet it with curiosity and ask, why am I resisting this? So we could be resisting something because it's actually not the right thing we're trying to do. So we could be pushing or forcing ourselves to do something that's not right. Or we're resisting for fear.
Yeah.
So getting curious about it and really trying to feel your way into, why is this resistance coming up? Am I simply procrastinating, or am I just worried about how this is all going to shape up in the end?
Yeah. And it is a true, coming back to that word, it's a magical thing when you are not just trying to find words on your own, but you are working alongside other people who are also trying to find the right words. And it might have had that kind of bit of fear and resistance happening for them as well, but you all come together. And even if you don't have a clear question yet and you don't know where to start, someone else in the group has a question, they've started on something, and you get to listen in and hear them progress. And by hearing them progress through what they were originally stuck on and needed feedback on, you start to believe that, hey, that's possible for me too. And you start it's magical. Like you just start writing, and then you just you all of a sudden have a question that you need feedback on, and you're just like, it is that borrowed momentum that happens.
Yes.
And that just also brought something up for me. Like there might be somebody listening, like, wait a second, you're trying to write and listen at the same time. Cause I remember that being like, how am I going to do that? I don't know if I can do that. And it's super easy, super, super easy. For me, what I do is I keep one earbud in my ear, and I'm writing. I have my volume on really, really low while I'm in the session. And I just have one earbud in just in case like something pops up it's almost like subliminal messaging. Like I'm not listening, but it's just coming in. And I think we've joked about this on several occasions. Sometimes I get really into writing and I need to focus. I pull both of my earbuds out and they can't hear me because nobody else can hear me because I'm muted, but I just start talking so they can see me talking to myself, but they can't hear me. And I just like go crazy. And then once I get through that flow, I'll pop an earbud back in, maybe. But that's how that works. So just in case anybody's like, wait, how does that work? It's easy.
Yeah, it's kind of like being in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And you're semi-interested in the conversations around you. So you tune in and out when you need to. But yes, some people totally just take their earbuds out and disconnect. Or they listen half the time.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes when it's totally quiet, it can feel like a vacuum. Like if you're just on your own trying to write something, sometimes I do get into those moods where I just need to be around other people, and then I can feel like I can get something done. And MOFO Writers does that for me. So I think we have really hit that well. Like everyone's going to approach this differently and in their own way. I'm going to be really interested to hear from the listeners how they have found approaching writing works for them. Like any tips and tricks, I'm really interested to hear. So if you've been listening and you are like, yeah, I've kind of over time realized that if I do this, I'm going to be better with my writing and I get it done. If you have anything like that you have found, I want you to come over to Instagram at Marketing Personalities and send me a direct message. Tell me what your personality type is and the 1 or 2 or 3, I don't care, no limit, thing that you have discovered works really, really well for you in developing a writing process and just what works for you. And if you are like, I got nothing, I still big time struggle with this and I have no idea how to make this writing thing feel good and show up consistently so I can grow this business of mine. Well, you are now connected to Jacq. So Jacq, tell us where everyone can find you online, because I know they need you. Where do we go?
Yeah, if you get stuck and you're like, writing sucks, I just can't do it, please ping me. If you go to jacquelinefisch.com, you'll find me there and my links to my favorite places, which are Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. And we have the correct spelling of that link right here in the show notes. So super easy to find. And we got on this interview today and Jacq told me that she wanted to offer our listeners something special. And I'm like, Jacq, you just take it away. Tell them what you're giving away. This is so generous. So in character for Jacq because she's one of the most generous, giving people I know. So this shouldn't surprise me, but it still did. Holy smokes. What are you giving the listeners?
I am giving listeners of Marketing Personalities a free copy review. So we will spend 30 focus minutes. You'll send me a link to what you're stuck on ahead of time. We'll hop on Zoom and we'll workshop through it just like we do in the MOFO sessions. So it is available for the first 11 people. 11's my lucky number.
Wow.
That's how I picked the number. And yeah, we will have a lot of fun. And you will get one piece of copy taken from muddled, muddy, wherever it is, jargon-filled, fussy, and we will make it crisp and clear, and we will dig into your client's words and make it sparkle just a little bit more.
Make it awesome. Wow. So the first 11 people can get on your calendar, spend 30 minutes with you for free, and get a piece of copy reviewed by you. And bounce back. And oh my goodness. So could this be a blog post, a sales page, an email, and all of the above, anything, anything you're writing and you can help with?
All of the above.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Your online dating profile. I've written some of those too. If you need help with that, we can write lots of things.
Okay. Where can the first 11 people go and get on your calendar?
If they go to jacquelinefish.com/marketingpersonalities.
Oh, that's so easy. Okay. jacquelinefish.com/marketingpersonalities.
Yep. And there's a big button there. It says book a free copy review. So you can't miss it.
Oh my goodness. You guys, you're crazy if you're not going there right this second. Okay. So you heard her. Go check her out. Get on her calendar at jacquelinefish.com/marketingpersonalities. And Jacq, thank you so much for being here. This was super fun.
Yay. Thank you, Brit. This was awesome.
All right. We'll talk to you next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Marketing Personalities Podcast. Now it's time to connect your marketing strategy to your personality type. Go to marketingpersonalities.com/MPP to download your marketing personality type full report. Use the code MPP at checkout to get $10 off. And that's a super special code for podcast listeners as a way to say thank you for being here. In your full report, you'll learn about your personality type, how it relates to the work you do, what your best marketing strategy includes so you can start implementing it right away, what your worst marketing strategy includes so you can avoid it, and so much more. Go to marketingpersonalities.com/MPP to get your full report and use the code MPP at checkout to receive $10 off your purchase. And one more thing before you skip on to the next podcast. Would you please share this episode with your entrepreneur friends who also need to feel good about their marketing strategies? Take a quick screenshot of your podcast app right now and share it out via text, Facebook, or my favorite, Instagram. Remember to tag me at Marketing Personalities in the photo so I can be sure to send you a huge high five and thank you for sharing the love. This podcast is edited and produced by the Podcast Engineers. They're pretty great, and you can find them at podcastengineers.com. That's all for now. Thanks as always for listening, and I'll catch you back here next week on the Marketing Personalities Podcast. Love ya. Bye.